Happy day students, welcome to San Academy Pallikaranai, Class 8 Science, and today's topic is Chapter 3 Synthetic Fibers and Plastics.
So, today we are going to discuss about Chapter 3 Synthetic Fibers and Plastics. So, all of you will be wearing different types of clothes, right? And what are these clothes actually made up of? These clothes are actually made up of fabric. Then what is acting as a source for the fabric? And that is nothing but fibers. And what are these fibers? These fibers are nothing but thin strands which will look almost like a single thread which your mother used to will be trying very hard to put it into the eye hole of the needle. So the fibers are nothing but thin strands which are quite long and they are flexible. And these fibers are only spun in order to make yarn, and which then can be either weaved or knitted in order to make fabrics. But as our topic is related to fibers, we are going to stick on only with fibers and we are not going to dwell much upon fabrics. So what are the sources of fibers? Generally, fibers are obtained from two sources. One is plant and the other is animals. And when the fibers are obtained from plant and animals, we call them as natural fibers. As we know, plant and animals belong to the nature. But in due course of time, when the demand for fabric increased, man started making their own fibers and they started using chemicals in laboratories in order to make man-made and synthetic fibers. And today our main focus will be on synthetic fibers and how these synthetic fibers are being made, and followed by that we will be discussing about few types of synthetic fibers. Before that, we should have an idea that every substance or every material is made up of small units. And what are those units called? And those units are called as monomers. But whenever we look into the material, we are not able to see the small units. We see only a combination of those small units which are called as polymers. And this polymer, the word polymer is actually derived from the Greek language. So we can call it as a Greek word, where the word poly means many and the word mers means part. So what is the actual definition of polymer? Polymer is the substance or material consisting of large molecules composed of repeated units. And this repeated units can be either of same type or it can be of different type. So when similar units or different units are combined together, or to put it in a chemical term, when they are linked together with the help of chemical linkages or bonds, it is called as polymer. And even this polymer is available in nature, and the best example is cellulose. We all know that the cell wall of plant cells are made up of cellulose, which is nothing but a natural polymer where many number of glucose units are chemically linked. Coming to synthetic polymer, plastic is the best example, and about this plastics we will be discussing in detail at the end of the lesson. And now, how are these monomers linked and what is that particular process called as? It is called as polymerization. So polymer is the material or a substance, whereas polymerization is a process by which polymers are being formed. In this chart, you can see similar units, that is same type of units, and these are called as monomer. And these monomers are joined together with the help of chemical links in order to form polymer. And the process that is involved in joining or linking the monomers in order to form polymers are called polymerization. So, let me explain the process of polymerization with something which we see in our day-to-day life. You all can see that I have placed few petals on the table. And all these petals are looking same or not? Yes, you're right. All these petals are looking same. And when we are going to tie these petals together, what do we get? We get a beautiful strand of flower. And this process of linking subunits together is called as polymerization. And one more example how you can relate polymerization is, you all would have seen your parent, that is your mother, wearing beaded necklace, right? So in that you can compare the beads to the monomers, and when those beads are added to the strings,
so, what are fibers? Fibers is a thin thread or thin strand which is made up of natural or artificial substance, and these fibers are especially used in order to make cloth or rope. And how do we make a cloth or rope? We all know fibers, as we have discussed just now, it is a thin strand, and this fibers will be later spun into yarn, and that yarn can be either woven or knitted in order to make the cloth, or it can be spun further in order to make the rope. And now let us discuss about what are the sources of fibers. These fibers can be generally obtained from nature, or it can be even made by man. So what are the natural fibers? Generally, natural fibers are those fibers which are obtained from plants and animals. And as you can see in the picture, the few examples of natural fibers are cotton, silk, wool, linen, and hair fibers from rabbits and goats. Among these, cotton and linen. Cotton and linen are called as plant fibers because they are obtained from plants, whereas silk, wool, and hair fibers are called animal fibers because they are obtained from animals. Then, what is the role of synthetic fibers? First, all of you will have a question, right? Why did the synthetic fibers come into existence? Actually, when the demand for fibers increased, man started making fiber artificially with the help of chemicals in laboratories, and they were later called as man-made or synthetic fibers. Now let us discuss about few plant fibers. First, we are going to discuss about cotton. Of course, we all know that we generally prefer cotton cloths during hot summers. And these cotton fibers, from where do we get them? We get them from cotton plant. And it is one of the traditional fiber, that is a fiber which is being used for so many years and ages in textile industry. And India is very famous in production of good quality of cotton fiber. Coming to linen, linen is a fiber which is obtained from flax plant, that is the seeds of the flax plant. And the property of the linen fabric is they are very much similar to cotton fabric, that is they are also very comfortable to wear, and they also absorb good amount of sweat, that is the cloth which is made out of linen fiber also has the ability to breathe, so that we prefer cotton and linen clothes during summer. Coming to the third plant fiber, jute, and it is obtained from jute plant, that too from the stem part of the jute plant, and because of its high strength, it is perfect for making packaging materials. And all of you would have seen so many bags and the wrappers which are made out of jute, and we all know jute bags are there and they come for a very long days of usage, right? And how it is made possible? Because of their strength, that is the strength of the fiber. Now let us discuss in brief about animal fibers. Animal fiber, first we are going to discuss about silk, and this silk is exclusively obtained from a worm called silkworm, that too from the cocoon of the silkworm. And the most popular kind of silk is obtained from mulberry silkworm, and we know it is quite expensive fiber. We all know, right? Women are quite very crazy on silk saris, exclusively South Indian women's, and it is quite very expensive. And it is obtained from which type of silkworm? Mulberry silkworm. And what happens in the process of making the silk fiber? In 2 days, a silkworm will spin a thread around itself, which is almost about 1000 to 3000 feet long. And once this process is completed, they used to collect the cocoon and they will drop it inside the boiling water, and from which the strands will be taken so carefully that it is not getting broken in between, because if the strands of silk fibers are broken, then it will not have a good commercial value. Now let us discuss in brief about the next most common animal fiber, which is wool. And this wool is commonly obtained from sheep. And why do we find sheep only in the very cold region? Because of this natural blessing for the animal. This wool will help them to withstand the extreme cold temperature, and that is what we are using even in order to withstand the extremely cold temperature during the winter. And this woolen fabric is so soft to touch, and it provides warmth to the weather, due to which it is the preferred choice for winter apparel. And this wool will have a good amount of heat retaining capacity, and that is why we always prefer woolen cloths during the winter season. Now, let us get into the actual topic of the lesson, which is synthetic fibers. So, when did this synthetic fibers come into play? As I told you before, when the demand for the fibers increased, man started making fiber artificially, and he coined them as synthetic fibers. And now the synthetic fibers are so user friendly compared to several natural fibers. And nowadays we get many items of clothing containing materials such as polyester, polyamide, terylene, rayon, etc., which are nothing but synthetic fibers. And all these items which we read just now are man-made fibers and are called as synthetic fibers, and they are made out of pure chemicals. So now let us discuss about how these synthetic fibers are made and what is the structure of the synthetic fiber. A synthetic fiber is generally a chain of small chemical units which are joined together. So how do we call this small chemical units? These small chemical units are generally referred as monomers. So as you can see in this picture, these small chemical units, that is monomers, are later linked with chemical bonds in order to form a large molecule which is called polymer. And these monomers can be either of same type or they can be of different type. But once they are linked and once they are converted into a large macromolecule, they will be called as polymers. So just now we saw that monomers are combined together in order to make a polymer. Then there must be a specific name, right, for that particular process, and the name of that particular process is polymerization. So polymerization is nothing but a process in which all the monomers are combined together in order to form a large macromolecule called polymer. And this combination or this process can lead to different types of polymers like linear polymers, branched polymers, cross-linked polymers, and network polymers. So in this slide, we are going to discuss about different types of polymers. So when the monomers are linked in a straight chain or a straight line, we call it as linear polymers. When several linear polymers are branched or combined with each other, just like the branches of tree, we call it as branched polymers. Whereas when several linear polymers are linked in a crisscross pattern, we call it as crossed polymers. Whereas when you have random linking of polymers, we call it as network polymers. Now let us start discussing about the synthetic fibers, different types of synthetic fibers in detail. And first we are going to learn about rayon. And this rayon is actually prepared from a natural polymer called cellulose. Before discussing in detail about why a fiber which is made out of a natural polymer is coming under the category of synthetic fiber, let us have a brief info about the discovery of rayon. Actually, rayon is the first man-made fiber which was developed in France in 1884. And the purpose of developing rayon was in order to offer an economical and affordable alternative to silk textiles. And this rayon has a high resemblance to silk fabric or silk fiber, and hence it is also called as artificial silk, and it is produced from the natural polymer called cellulose. But though it is produced from a natural polymer, we call it as a synthetic fiber because this natural polymer undergoes an extensive chemical treatment to get converted into a rayon fiber. And what are those extensive chemical treatment that the cellulose undergoes? Is the wood pulp is first dissolved in an alkaline solution, and then a thick liquid is being produced, which is then passed into a tiny hole of a metal cylinder, which is also known as a spinneret, in order to make the thin strands, that is the fibers. And then these fibers are hardened by passing them into a bath containing sulfuric acid. And once the fibers are hardened, then they are spun into yarn and woven into cloths. Now let us discuss about the properties of rayon. This main advantage of the rayon fiber is it is a very good absorbent of sweat, so that it can be worn even during hot summer days. And the next is it can be easily colored and it can be easily woven into cloth. And whenever we drape a rayon, it suits to the body or to the physique of an individual very well. And appearance wise, rayon has a very good shiny appearance, and hence we can also say it is lustrous in appearance. And this rayon generally is providing very less warmth, and hence it is crease easily and needs ironing. That is one thing which we have to take care of it. And the rayon fibers has the same comfort property as a natural fiber because the base material is obtained from the natural product, that is plant. Now let us discuss in detail about the uses of rayon, that is how rayon is being used in various ways. The first one is rayon is generally mixed with fiber glasses in order to make helmets, and then it is also used in making dress material because it is very soft, silky and moisture absorbent, so that it can be a comfortable dress material to be worn during summer. And it is also used for curtains because it drapes well, and it is also used as a upholstery for luxury cars and offices and home furnishing, and it is also used as a reinforcing for nylon tires. And in case of medical field, it is being used for making bandages and surgical dressings. So now let us discuss about the next type of synthetic fiber, which is nylon. So this nylon was the first man-made complete synthetic fiber because it is completely made out of chemicals. Whereas, please do have a recall, rayon, the base material was a natural product. And it was first introduced by Wallace Carothers on 28 February 1935. And the chemical compounds that were used in making nylon are now obtained from petroleum products called petrochemicals. Actually, nylon is made up of repeating units of chemicals called amide. So nylon is also called as polyamide. I hope you all remember. In the beginning itself, we read under the synthetic fiber one example as polyamide. And nylon is a thermoplastic polymer which can be molded to any shape, and it was made simultaneously in New York and London. Thus, it has derived its name as nylon, where NY stands for New York and LON stands for London. And it is the strongest synthetic plastic material which can be molded into any shape, and hence we call it as a thermoplastic polymer, and it is so strong and it can be colored easily. But nylon fibers do not absorb water easily, and hence cleaning the nylon fiber is very easy, and it is elastic in nature and hence has highly durable, so that it can be stretched to any level. And apart from this, nylon is also wrinkle resistant, and nylon fibers have a very low resistance to sunlight. That is, they cannot withstand sunlight and sun's heat. Now coming to properties of nylon. The first property is it is toughest elastic material. That is, it has a very good stretching capacity so that it can be stretched to a greater extent. And high tensile strength. That is, no matter how heavy the load is going to be at the one end of the nylon rope, it can withstand the weight. And hence we call it as it has a high tensile strength, and slightly water absorbent and dries quickly. As we saw in the previous slide, nylon does not absorb water to a great extent, and hence drying of nylon can be done very easily, and it can be molded into fibers, bristles, sheets, rods, tubes and coating. And when any synthetic fiber can be molded into many different shapes, it is generally called as thermoplastic polymers, and hence nylon is also called as thermoplastic polymers, and it resists oil, grease, moth, fungus and other pests. Since nylon do not absorb more amount of water, it will not have moisture content at all, and hence it avoids, or it is free from fungal and other moth and pest attacks. As well as, since it is going to be very smooth, even the oil and grease stains can be easily cleaned away from nylon fabric and can be made into plates or powders. That is, the nylon can be spreaded into plates, or even it can be made into very fine granules almost like powders, and it is lustrous and easy to wash. Since the surface is going to be very smooth, it gives this shiny appearance, as well as it can be washed and maintained easily. Now let us discuss about uses of nylon, that is, where all we use this nylon fiber. It is exclusively used in manufacturing and production of ropes, in fishing nets, as well as the fishing line, as well as sleeping bags and raincoat, because as you can see, fishing net, fishing line as well as raincoat, all these have their major role to be played inside the water or getting exposed to the water. And since nylon does not absorb water, they can last for a very long duration, and hence nylon is being used to make materials which are under continuous exposure to water. Now let us discuss about the next type of synthetic fiber, which is polyester. And how are these polyesters actually made up of? So before that, let us have a brief intro about polyester. It is a general name for synthetic fiber that contains many ester groups. As you can see in the name itself, it states poly, many, and ester means it is a type of chemical. So when many ester groups are combined together, we call it as polyester. Alcohol and organic acid react together to make compounds called esters, which polymerizes to form polyesters or polyester polymer. So it is mainly alcohol and organic acids. When they react together to make compounds called esters, we call them as polyester or polymers of polyester. Now let us discuss about few names which are commonly used under polyesters, and they are terline, dacron, terrin and polyester. So now let us discuss about the properties of polyesters. Polyesters are highly resistant to pest and chemical, and they generally dry quickly because they do not absorb water to a great extent, so that they can dry quickly, and it is very easy to wash and does not shrink or stretch. So we can even say polyesters are wrinkle resistant. And coming to the other property, it forms a permanent crease if heated and pressed. That is, polyesters, if they are exposed to high heat whenever we are pressing the clothes, then it will form a permanent mark on it. And polyesters are generally tough, but they are light in weight and elastic in nature. And that is the reason why polyester clothes can have a great amount of life compared to the other clothes which are made out of natural fibers. Now let us discuss about uses of polyester. They are exclusively used in making magnetic audios and video cassettes and floppy disks, and they are mixed with fiberglass for molding it into helmets, protective sheets and hulls in boat. And they are highly suitable for shirting, shooting, saris and draperies. And it is also used for making sails for sailing boats. It is also used for making fire hoses and conveyor belts. And nowadays, PET bottles are one of the most popular use of polyesters. And polyesters are also used for making nets, threads, raincoats, jackets, clothing and medical textiles. Just let me give you a tidbit whether to check whether you know it or not. Among the synthetic fibers, the polyesters are most widely used. They account for about one half of all the synthetic fibers that are used worldwide. Now let us discuss about the next type of synthetic fiber, which is acrylic. As it is falling under the heading synthetic fiber, we all know acrylic is a synthetic fiber. And this acrylic is made out of a chemical called acrylonitrile through polymerization. And acrylic is commonly used as a clothing material, and it is very light in weight, soft and warm, and hence it almost mimics the wool, and hence acrylic is often used as substitute for wool. And acrylic fibers are very strong and wrinkle resistant, unlike the natural woolen fiber. And it is very easy to wash and they even dry quickly. But whereas in case of natural woolen fiber, it is not possible. And they are resistant to moth and oil stains, chemicals and deterioration on exposure to sunlight. That is, in case of natural woolen fibers, when they are exposed to sunlight, they get deteriorate at a very fast rate. Whereas in case of acrylic, the deterioration when it is exposed to sunlight is completely absent. Now coming to the general characteristics of synthetic fibers. So synthetic fibers are very strong, and synthetic fibers are wrinkle resistant, and they absorb very little water, hence they can be dried easily. And synthetic fibers are quite lightweight, so they can be carried, or we can say that they are quite portable. And the other characteristics of synthetic fibers are they are extremely fine, and the fabric made from synthetic fibers have a very smooth texture, whereas natural fibers are not so fine and they are quite coarse in nature. And synthetic fibers, since they do not absorb water to a great extent, they are not attacked by moths or any insects or a fungal growth or bacterial growth. And these synthetic fibers do not shrink, and we can also call them that they are wrinkle free. Wrinkle free. And synthetic fibers are quite less expensive, and they are readily available and easily available in the market. Coming to durability, synthetic fibers generally have a long life compared to natural fibers. There are few disadvantages of synthetic fiber in spite of so many advantages. So now let us discuss about them. They melt on heating, and that is the reason why we are not advised to wear a cloth which is made out of synthetic fibers whenever we are entering into the kitchen for cooking purpose, or whenever we are reaching somewhere near flame or fire. And generally when the clothes made out of synthetic fibers are worn during hot summer, it gives us a more warm and heating and irritating sensation.